First pullback, take trade.
Excuse me, Manny. I don't know if anybody else could hear, but Manny, there's no audio.
Test, mic check, 1, 2. All right, guys. Hello. Okay, good. All right, so that's my trade plan for the day. I hope you. I just laid out the perfect trade plan for the day. So I'm glad you guys caught that. All right. Thanks, guys. Thanks for letting me know. You know, I had chat on in this on the other screen, and I wasn't looking at it. I was just kind of dialed into the chart. So thanks for the heads up on that, Marlon. Appreciate it. And thanks, guys, for in the pit chat for letting me know. All right, so let me start over again. We only have 3 minutes, so I'm going to go quickly. All right, so let's cover the bullish argument. Yeah, no, today we're going to make $1 million, right? That was the plan I just laid out. This is just going to be filler. No. All right, so really quickly, so let's cover the bullish argument, right? So say we open here at 71.4850 and we immediately get a test of the overnight high, right? We have to gauge the strength and the momentum of that move, right? Does that move gain a following above the overnight high? Does the pullback, so say we even pull back to 71.46, right? So say we breach the overnight high and even say we get a pullback to the overnight high and it holds, then we can gauge that at that time and see if it's holding, and then we can get long for a test of yesterday's high, and that's at 71.72. And that trade's got a lot of meat on it because, I mean, at least 20 points, right? So overnight high 71.57, and then yesterday's high 71.72. I'm going to go quickly here because we're facing the open in 2 minutes. All right, so that would be the most bullish argument. The other, another option too is that the overnight high doesn't hold, but kind of these highs here at 71.45, kind of we start to hold in these highs, right? And then we get the move higher. So let's be on alert for that. Okay, that's the most bullish argument. Open drive higher, and it's game on to the upside. So one thing I was pointing out, guys, is on the higher time frame also is that this is looking more like a pullback in time like this versus a pullback that you see lower prices. So all, you know, the one thing that's standing out to me each morning when I come and I turn on the charts is just the absence of sellers, right? Like it just doesn't seem like any sellers are in this market. We'll see if that remains true today. All right, so that kind of covers that covers the most bullish argument. Let's cover the bearish argument. So say we open here at 71.48 quarter and price trades immediately lower. So then at that point, if we see that there's not even a small bounce at the 71.45, there's not a bounce at value area high, we just cut right through it and beeline straight lower, then hopefully maybe we get a little blip higher where we can try a short scalp up against 71.40, 71.45 for a move down to the overnight low, you know, with the understanding that, you know, the overnight low is the target there, and that would be also the volume point of control from yesterday's session. At that point, what we can be looking for is the look below and fail. So say we test we test overnight low, we stab down, we reclaim it. Maybe we make a little bit lower of a low, but ultimately price just chops around for about an hour or so, reclaims it, and then starts to move higher. Then that's our look below and fail setup, and we can start looking for longs on the reclaim of the overnight low. Maybe on a trend line break, we can say we get the move lower, we come high, maybe a little stab lower, but ultimately price just chops around. Then we can start looking for long ideas, right, on something like this. So if we get a trend line break here, this would be our signal to get long. So what we have to be on alert for, right, is if we're gonna sell and we're going to actually see lower prices and a retest of the prior all-time high at 71 the 70.43 level, then I don't think we're gonna stop at the overnight low. Right. I think that, you know, when ES sells, what we'll see is a straight beeline move lower, and not, you know, maybe you get a little blip at overnight low, but ultimately bulls are unable to reclaim it. And that would be a very frothy trade because we'd be getting short at the overnight low 71.21, and we would be targeting the value area low, ultimately the settlement at 7,100. And so we're risking like 5 or 10 for a potential 20-point move. And if we're really cooking and we're moving down fast, maybe ultimately a test of yesterday's low. All right. So let's cover the dreaded sideways action, right? So say that the theory of this pullback in time that we're seeing in the 4-hour, say that remains true. Say that holds true for another day or so while this move is digested, right? Which kind of makes sense because of just the velocity of the move higher has just been astounding, right? And also adding to that the context of the lack of sellers that we're seeing in this market. So say we go sideways, what we'd be looking for there is, first we're going to see what's our daily open and what's price relationship to that opening print. Okay, so say we come down, we open here, and we're opened at, let's see, what is our opening print? Well, our opening print 71.50 quarter, all right? So we're going to monitor to see what's price relationship to that opening print. And in a sideways market, like I think what we can expect is, we'll go down and test the overnight low, fail to gain any traction. But the move down to the overnight low it's not going to be an impulsive move. It'll just be a choppy move, kind of, blipping higher a couple of points and then grinding lower. And that grindy kind of low volume, low intensity movement that is price pulling back, but pulling back from an absence of buyers, not really a presence of aggressive selling. All right. And then in that event, we probably reclaim the overnight low. And again, we can look for the same opportunities for a scalp back to the middle of the range. And I think that would probably be the worst case scenario for today. All right. So the other thing we have to cover is overnight. So let's understand that the overnight inventory, right? How do we understand what the overnight inventory condition is? So the way we assess what the condition of the overnight inventory is, we just look at what yesterday's settlement was, 7,100, and gauge how much of the volume overnight has been above or below that price. And for today, we can see that easily that 100% of the overnight volume or the overnight trade has been above that settlement and really above the Globex open and in the above the pullback high from yesterday's session. So we can definitely assess that the overnight inventory is 100% long. And so it wouldn't surprise me to see some lower prices initially to start that kind of resets that overnight inventory. All right. But remember, if we're going to sell and it's going to be a bearish, momentous move, it's going to, we all know how ES sells. We're going to get a look like this. I think we get a look more like this, a straight down move, as opposed to this, right? So this is the straight line move. Bears failed to gain a following, and then we just kind of grinded lower. That's what a pullback in time looks like, as opposed to, rapid selling, rapid cutting through levels, rapid price action lower. All right, so that kind of frames out the bullish argument and the bearish argument. Let me get my the daily open in here, framed out. Let's go here. And we noted that open price at 71.50 quarter. Just want to confirm that. All right. So sorry, I had I wanted to rush to get everything in before the open, but what I highlighted early on when I was just talking to myself and enjoying my own company was that we had this impulsive move higher off off the. So we remember. Let's just follow the progression here really quickly. I like to frame the day and frame my analysis just following a logic chain, right? Like price leaves. This is a big money move. It leaves clues, right? So we had the 61. We had the 63.60 low right here. We breached it by 7 points. Did a look below and fail, and then it was rapid move up, impulsive move higher, and for a test of the hourly trend. Okay, that move did exactly pulled back halfway of the impulsive move higher, and then a resumption of the trend. Okay, so we framed that out here with, you can see our Fibonacci extensions. Just kind of, it's a tool that kind of gives us a measured move target, right? So we had the move off the low. We pulled back, and then we can see here that price, let me just get it in here correctly. Price went sideways, right? So let me remove this one so you can see it more clearly, right? So we had to move off the low, the pullback, and then a resumption of the trend. And then what did price do? We went sideways, not for a pullback off of the completion of the measured move target, but more a pullback in time where we went sideways. We gapped down on Sunday, and then it was that, future traders were waiting for that hand and fist. They bought it up. It was a move higher, and we got the next leg. All right. So now we're going to take that pullback low from the last hourly pullback, and we're going to measure to the top of the rally and then to the bottom of the gap. And you can see here that we've just completed another 1-to-1 or a measured move target up at 71.4350, right? So it kind of makes sense that price is now digesting the move and going sideways a bit. Because we had wave 1 up, 2 down, 3 up, do we see a deeper pullback that comes back in and tests the prior all-time high, or maybe even this trend line here? We'll see. I think that in order for the hourly trend to change, we would have to see price get below 68.90 to 6,900 right here, which lines up with this high from that Friday high prior to the gap down. So bulls are firmly in control. The hourly trend, which is kind of what we use to guide our decisions for the day, is in a firm uptrend. Not to say that there won't be down moves, but what we're seeing here is a pullback in time. Very bullish price action, and we want to stay in alignment with the dominant forces. And for today and for now, it continues to be buyers. All right. So I hope I framed that out as well as I did the second time, as well as I did the first time. You guys had to hear the first time. I think it was probably my best presentation ever. I'm glad no one heard it. All right. So let me see. I think we have David Dubay coming on today. Sorry about that. Had to go check the door real quick. Oh my God, how am I going to make any money if I don't have a hat on? Dude. We know how this works.
Hey, Manny, good morning.
Hey, there he is. Welcome to the show.
I'm so sorry that your mic was off during your early briefing.
Yeah, I'm not giving that out again.
That hurt.
That was brutal. Yeah, that sucked, man. I'll be honest with you. That sucked because I kind of put some time and thought into that, and
yeah, I could see you were cranking.
Dang it. And I was in this flow, and I didn't even think to check the chat because I was just dialed in on the charts over here, and then where I keep the chat is kind of over there, so I kind of have to spin to look at it. Anyway, whatever. I won't bore you to death with that. What's going on? How are you?
All right. Again, I don't want to overstep your prep, but for the most part, for our side over here, we're just kind of in the neutral. This is a cycle day 2 for us here. And as such, given the cycle day one action yesterday, which was textbook. We're kind of looking for kind of a two-way consolidation, balancing type play here early on. So uh, we're
Yeah,
just
I
kind
think
of
that kind of I think that makes sense.
yeah.
I highlighted, on the higher time frame, the 4 hour chart, how we're getting, how obviously the impulsive move off the lows, right? Oh, my screen is a little frozen here. The impulsive move off the low uh kind of caught everybody by shock, and I think that what we're seeing here is just, a digestion of that move.
Yeah, same thing on our side for the most part. We're looking for if we get a dip down a little bit lower towards the 35, 36 area, we'll be looking for a BTFD type trade, uh, lower part of the value zone
Hang on, guys.
for today.
I'm having a little bit of a issue here. Hang on. I think I might have to relaunch this. Hang on. Yep. 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 Yep.
I can post my charts up if you want.
Yeah, I'm going to need to bring these down and relaunch it again. So that's going to take me a few minutes. Hang on. I can just put this one up for now. But this has got to come down. That's the second time it froze on me today. I hope that's not a bad sign.
I don't want to freeze up the screen, but I think I can add my charts here.
Yep, I'm relaunching NinjaTrader now.
Let me add the pit room to my share. Looks like it's good. Okay. Yeah, it looks like we're good. So now I got my charts up there in the pit room as well. Everybody in the pit room see my charts? Want to make sure they're broadcasting. Anyway, so far for us, it's going to be at this stage just a quiet sit and watch for a little bit. We got a small A4 long right here within the context of the range. Somewhat of a little bit of a kind of a scalp type trade in that range. A couple targets already. That's a top left window, and pretty much that's it. So I think it's a sit and wait for the early going here for us. Right. Let me know if anybody has any questions. It's always a good when it's quiet and the volatility and the range is tight. It's always good to have some conversation if you have any ideas and questions you want answered. Keep the conversation going.
Yep, that's always appreciated. Just while I get these charts back up again.
As you all probably know, there tends to be a lot of dead time sitting and waiting.
Yes, and I don't think that anyone wants to really start hearing me, talk about my personal life. I mean, that's super boring stuff.
I
And
can pull out my guitar and we can have a sing song session.
yeah, let's not.
Let's not. Yeah, let's not.
There's always something to talk about when it comes to markets, right? But and I'll be honest with you guys, I'm kind of cross between, like how much, how can I say it? Like how nerdy to get about it or not. I think, more. look, at the end of the day, if I was watching, all I want to do is know is where's the next trade, where's my target, where's my risk, right? Or let me see what you're doing and see if it fits what I want to do, right? And if not, let's see how you execute, right? I think that that's probably what I would want to watch. And but if I was sitting here alone and I wasn't trading, I would be, I'd probably be thumbing through some statistics and stuff like that. So, just waiting for, like David said, just waiting for that next trade and just kind of sitting tight. That's one of the drawbacks to trading, in my opinion, right, is that it can be really isolating. You can just, and I think that that's where a lot of traders struggle with going on tilt, right? Because you're sitting here all day. Say you start your day an hour before the open. You sit here, you have your plan, you have a good idea of what you want to do for the day, and you've been assessing all of this information, all of this data, for a few hours. You execute your trade, the trade either works or it doesn't. And then if you fast forward to, say, 11 or even 10:30, 11 o'clock, now you have 3 hours where you've been assessing all this data, and you kind of start fixating on the chart or fixating on the next tick or the next point. And you kind of lose the forest for the trees, and you fall into your head, and you that little voice in your head, which I call the little voice in my head my little me, right? And it just starts going off, and you start to lose some perspective. So from that standpoint, I think community is so important, especially the right community, right? A community that can help you stay in alignment with the forces of the day, and kind of, that is helping you stay, focused on your process, focus on your execution. That's really what this is all about, right? It's kind of like having that work environment where people are supportive, but also keeping you grounded. Okay. So I've got this rogue trade on right here. What did that look like up there? Okay.
Yeah, our A4 trade on the top left of our screen hit 3 targets, and the stop trail got elected. So that's all what we have going here today so far. Small trade, but we'll take it.
Thank you for all you guys watching on YouTube. Drop a comment. Yep. Yeah. Thank you. I got that. Oh man, your voice is not coming. I'm getting crushed on YouTube. Sorry guys. But I hear you now loud and clear. Hey, you know what I forgot was, let me get the Spygate up so that we can hear for any institutional activity. That's always a good edge, and so there's, oh man, wait a minute, what's going on here? So Spygate is our institutional program selling tool, right? And it's important for me to have that on so I can understand the tone of the day. So croak, like frog croaks, it would be a sell program, and knocks are buy programs. And you can discern a lot from how many buy programs, how many sell programs are going off, as well as the absence of any institutional activity, right? So if I'm not hearing anything, that's also a sign. Okay, this thing is, yeah. My chart froze again. Shit. Crap. My charts are frozen again. Unbelievable. All right, David. Let me blow up David's chart, so that's probably dominant until I get my act together. Hang on, hang tight. There you go. What the? Yeah, I'm not sure if you guys saw that, but look, my chart got frozen at 71.45.
Yeah, you're using NinjaTrader. So NinjaTrader is a hog on resources and tends to freeze up quite often. Sierra charts the charm. Never freezes. John South. I'm gonna call you John South. Hold on a second.
Hang tight, guys. I'm having some technical difficulties here with my platform just froze, so bear with me. But you guys have David charts up pretty much very similar. David and I share the same approach to trading. Not exactly the same, but very similar. All right. Yeah, you see how it's getting all wonky here? All right. Let's do this. Hang on. So, once again, algos run amok over here because my NinjaTrader platform froze. Let me just close down these charts that I'm not using, right? So that's a test bed. I'm going to kill this one also. I just want to kind of lighten this up a bit. Yep, I want you dead. Okay, let me just make sure I don't have any redundancies here. I'm killing that. That's the profile chart. Yeah, so I had this long on. It was an algo trade, 71.49. I have a long on 71.45, and the stops are not in because, well, my NinjaTrader sucks. So I'm not gonna panic, but I definitely want to get my ducks in a row here. And that, hey, that's one thing that I want to ask you guys, right? What is a good way to exit a bad trade, right? Are you going to panic out of it? Are you just going to click the flat button? What's your approach? I'd love to hear it. What is a good way to exit a bad trade? Oh, nope, that's not it. Man, this is not a good sign. Another reason is I'm looking for an AM high. So I put the time study in the charts in the chat. And A big development there is last night I spent about 3 hours working on like the visuals for the clock. Uh, the clock where I'm gonna do a workshop. We're gonna stream it live on the clock and how to use that, the nuances and so forth. So very, very close. I know I've been promising that for about a week now. It's just I had to first collect every day type, and there are 8 different day types. But when you add the, which I want to add the cycle days to it, it kind of adds this next layer of complexity to it. In that I have to gain every day type configuration. Hang on. Where am I relative to the overnight high? Let's see. Shit. Oh. All right. All right, let me get the Spygate up now. Sorry, guys. I'm just trying to work through some of this other stuff. Spygate. Yeah. So, okay. So last night I worked on the clock config on the clock information. Okay, and just to give you a heads up on that, I'm going to add a little. There's a short because I have to cite what cycle days we're in order for it to make sense. So, when you add the 8 different day types and when you add the 3 cycle days, it comes to, 20, it's a 24 different types of configuration, 24 different day types you can have. I'm not going to bore you with the math, but just I'm collecting all the information. All right, getting to move higher up into the overnight low. I should probably take some profit on this. Bit of a let's take one off here. So plus 10 points on the 71.45. Let me make sure I have the account number right. Okay. Yep. Don't want to show the account, but I definitely want to know what account. There. What is my overnight high? Am I approaching that now? Let me see. Where am I? Okay, here we go. Testing the overnight high, guys. So we're getting that first bullish type configuration. We said, let's monitor here for continuation. See if bulls can gain a following over the overnight high. Can we get up there with some strength and some momentum? And what holds on a pullback? Okay. Does the overnight high pull back? Do we get a pullback to the overnight high? That holds, that kind of goes sideways for a bit for an entry for the long. You know, if we get a pullback to the overnight high, what I don't like about it is that so the overnight high is up at 71.57, and essentially we'd have to risk, about 8 points on that. That's kind of limited in terms of all right, so looked above the overnight high, 39 contracts traded, and let's see what kind of delta divergence we're getting. So heads up, here's another tool that I'm sharing. So do you guys, let me just fix it, hang on. You guys see that blue and red graph in the upper left corner? Right, let me let the guys on YouTube see it before they leave. Okay. All right. So let me know if you guys see that. I have a stop loss on every entry and a profit stop. Yeah, so do I, if my platform's working. Adrian, good point, right? So I should have a stop in, and that's the way to trade. Honestly, I always enter the market with a really broad stop, right? So I always enter the market with like a 10 or 12 point stop, right? I don't want my stop so close that I get stopped out on a blip. I want to be able to take an exit that makes sense. However, okay, getting a little pullback here. Let's just go ahead and protect this. I already took some profit off on this. I'm going to move to break even just because I'm yapping a lot. But what I want to emphasize is that, when a position is going against you, right? I in my experience, what I've learned is I don't want to hit that. I don't want to panic out, right? Because what happens, right? So let's just talk about it from a psychological perspective. I don't want to get too nerdy on it, but all right. So position's going against you, right? And you're seeing every tick that goes against you, and each tick kind of makes you squirm a little bit more, right? So what ends up happening is that that's why so often you'll hear traders get stopped out on a low tick, right? Like on the low of a candle, because they see it reach an extreme. They're kind of at their wits' end with the trade, and they just panic out of it, and that marks the low of the move. And that happens so many times. It's happened to me so often that I'll wait a little bit, because every move has a retracement. Prices don't tend to not move too linearly. However, you have to have that backstop, right? For me, that backstop is typically 10 to 12 points. But I don't like a 10-point stop, and I try to avoid them. I typically know if I'm wrong at about 5 to 7 points, and then I'll just close it out. So this one's going to get taken out, break even on the balance. Not surprised there. We looked above the overnight high, guys, and we failed. Right. So closing that one out doesn't make any sense to hold that. Let's see how I did on those. Hang on a second. Let's see how I did on those. Hang tight. I got to get this going here. Yeah, I mean, not great. Not great. Not great. It's a mixed bag. I can I want to be as transparent as possible. So, but I also don't want to give out any information that could, that can fall into nefarious hands, right? So I definitely don't want to show my account numbers and things of that nature. But um, I'm starting to understand that, in order to, I think people just want to see the truth, and I have no problem with that. The good, the bad, and the ugly, right? I'm not Paul Tudor Jones. I'm not the best trader. I think that my strength lies in, I have two strengths. I tend to be able to hold moves longer than I tend to hold moves longer. Also, I tend to not overtrade. I think that those are my two core strengths. Let me know what your core strengths are. Drop a comment in there and we can talk about it. Here's the let me see if how can I blip this? So this would be the P&L there. All right. So there you go for you guys. Yeah, there you go. So there you go for you transparency hunters on the tube. I'm not hiding anything. I have no problem showing it. Shit, look at this. We're rallying now. I'm a little bit hesitant here though because of the state of NinjaTrader. So I just want to go easy here. We looked above the overnight high. We pulled back. Again, just trying to be mindful of the potentiality of a pullback in time, right? A sideways move. I don't expect that to be the case. I don't know. Yeah. How'd you know, Tom? Yep. I think that's a good one. So Magister says in the pit chat, he says, my strength is my research and the ability to follow instructions in my system. That's a key one, right? Like, so being able to follow a trade plan, that's so underrated, right? I mean, typically traders have, traders have a plan, and they get, they hit a snag, right? They think because they have a plan that every trade's going to work, and they don't plan for, okay, how am I, say that you've tested your system, over 10 trades, and your system needs 4 wins and 6 losses and can absorb 6 losses, right? And you don't, and often traders don't plan for how they're going to feel if they take 4 losses in a row successively, right? Are you collapsing? Are you breaking down? Are you throwing your rules out the window because you feel like shit because you took a couple of losses? And that's really where the rubber meets the road, guys. The ability to not to absorb those emotions that come from, a unintended outcome. All right, let me make sure I have this correct now. So also we're hearing an absence of any institutional activity. Not really hearing anything coming from Spygate right now. But hang tight. I'm just trying. I need to get this. I need to get this. Oh, great. Do me a favor. If you're watching on YouTube, please hit that like comment. Please hit that like button. We're trying to we're going to offer a lot of value here in the coming weeks. We've been planning this rollout for a few months now, and I mean, this is the bare bones version of it. You guys, yesterday I introduced the Spygate, the institutional activity tracker. That's one. We have more tools coming. So make sure you hit that subscribe button and hit that notify button so that you can see when we're going to stream. And look, if you guys want to watch and you guys want to use, like you want to use the Spygate, you want to use the some of the other tools that I can announce that we're going to be offering. You're going to want to hit that subscribe button. You're going to want to follow along, because you can even have us, you can be watching us in the background, and we're going to offer a lot more value than just entertainment. There are going to be real tools that help you make better decisions in your life. So Magisters follows up with you have to know what you're going to do if you get punched in the face, right? And so the dreaded emotions, right? Like how are you gonna feel about it? And that's I often say, you can try to like dampen your emotions, but just for me it just works better to know that they're there. Know when I get pissed off. Know what happens when I get pissed off. What was the sign right before I went on tilt that threw me into tilt? Like there's always a time right before that kicks in that you can kind of save yourself, right? And so that's what we want to hone in on. Sam B says, stop loss a must, profit stops. How does one know ahead of time when profit will stop? Stopping profit means you never catch a 40 handle or better move, for example, unless I'm misunderstanding the term, which is highly unlikely. Yeah, okay, good. I'm glad you asked that, Tam. So how do you catch a more lengthy move, right? And some of you guys that have been trading with me for some of the guys that are in I Am Pro have been trading with me for years, right? And I've, without any hubris in it, I tend to catch long moves. I once had a 114 point intraday trade. So a trade that I initiated in the morning and held it for ultimately 114 points. And the way you do that, right, is this. So here's how I do. I was just explaining this to another buddy of mine. So how do you catch that extended leg? So first, you have to be a multiple contract trader, right? So you have to trade more than one contract. And the way I do it is I typically have trades that I take for 5-point scale, 10-point scale, and then I have a runner. With whatever your first two scales are, or even if say you're one it's tougher with, okay, we're breaking out here. We're breaking out. Shit. Chatting too much. If you're my initial position is always, I start with 2 and then I always add another, and I can go, and I typically will go up to 6. Okay. So say I'm just trading 3 contracts. I'll take a 5-point first, a 10-point second, and then I move the stop on the 3rd contract to 5 points back from my entry. Okay. And then I'll let it work. Once price gets moving, and if you nail the move and you're going to get a 25, 30-point move, it won't come back to you. You can move it to break even, and then just don't touch it. Walk away and understand that you're going to have to sit through at least one pullback that's going to test your fortitude. It's going to test your ability to hold that trade. But if going into it, you accept that, hey, I took my first 2 targets, I'm happy with that, Now I'm going to roll the dice on this third, and I'm okay with this trade breaking even. You have to be okay with it, because if not, you're going to see it go. I once had a trade. I once had a runner on that went plus 43 points. It retraced. It went plus 43. It retraced 40 of it, and then I ultimately closed it out for a 50-point gain. And it sounds like really weird and stuff, and maybe it's not the best management, but to be honest with you, I said, look, I'm going to cover this at the end of the day. I don't care what it does. I thought I had gotten stopped out. I didn't, and I ended up closing it at the time that I did. But the only reason I was able to do that, guys, was because I had told myself that I'm okay with breaking even on this last one, and here's where I'm going to cover it. And the moves that I've caught that are frothy have always been, I'm covering this, in the last hour of the day. I'm going to try to hold it for as long as I can. I also use that as a risk mitigator, right? If I'm holding that contract, I'm not going to trade anymore. All right, let's get back to the charts. All right, so we got the look above from the overnight high. All right, what did price do? It look exactly what we were looking for. God dang it. All right, it came back, it tested the 71.45, and it launched. God damn it. That's frustrating. I've got to get better about focusing on the trade and talking less. All right, I'm not going to stress it. It seems like every day, at least every day, I miss one good one. All right, so here, guys, Fan B says, understand the sentiment. Okay, wait, Magister. Let's see, Magister. We need hats. Knowing when to exit is part of your research. Okay, Magister points out, knowing when to exit is part of your research. Understand the sentiment, Magister, says Sam B. Moving stops has worked pretty well since 93. Cutting profits based on research is assuming I know what the market is going to do before it does. I don't know. I don't truly know. I've done a lot of research. I prefer letting it give me as much profit as it wants. Right. And I think that it's more about like, are you going to be able to sit through that pullback? I always say, hey, I'm going to give up. I'm going to have to sit through a retracement, and it's going to be uncomfortable. 100%. I have to accept that. But I'm deciding right now that I'm not going to touch it. I'm going to accept the break even. That's it. That is it. And it's a linear outcome. It's either it hits the stop or it hits or I cover it at the time I said I was going to cover it. Nothing more, nothing less. And work on that skill. Work on developing it. You probably mess it up a few times and take an early exit and so forth, but it's going to take some time to develop. But just like anything else, you put the reps in and you develop the skill. Just watching the delta here on the scalp. Just watching the delta here. So if you guys see that, if you're looking here, you see this blue chart, this blue and red gauge that I have in the upper left-hand corner of the chart. You guys will often hear me talk about how I monitor the delta at the level. Okay. So the way I do that, I have a tool, and that's this gauge here. So the right gauge, the red and blue, right, going up and down. You guys see, let me blow it out so you guys can see it a little bit better. Okay. I've got a small scalp on right now, 71.62. Let me see if I can show it. Anyway, just let it work. So look, this is it blown out a little bit. So there are two kind of graphs here, two kind of gauges. The one on the right is telling me how aggressive, right? What is the delta at the level? So if it's more blue, that's more market buy orders than the market sell orders that are going through. So right now we see buyers overwhelming it. Okay. On the left is the actual volume that's going through.
Target filled.
All right, I got that target. Does that make sense to y'all? Let me know if it makes sense. Drop a comment. Let me know. If not, I'll go over it again. But this is a really, really important tool that I use on day in, day out. It's how I gauge my entries, right? So again, just to rehash it, just to go over it again. Hang on a second. Hang on. See how Delta's going really blue, 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 right? You see that? See all the blue, right? That's so the red is market sell orders, blue is market buy orders, and you can see that the market buy orders are overwhelmed. See, now the reds are kind of I'm giving you a second by second update, but generally what we want to do is watch it over time. And it's rare to see, it's rare to see a turn when this is going when blue is overwhelming red. You're not going to see a turn. On the left is how many orders are actually being processed. So see, right now the market sell orders are taking over, right? So look at what price is doing. What are we doing? Are we pulling back? Sure, right? We're pulling back, right, guys? You see that? That's how I gauge that's the tool that I use to give me an edge at entry. If I'm waiting for a flip in that delta to get in at that level. Yeah. Sorry, guys. I can't. Yep, I'm trying to monitor the YouTube chat. So heads up, programming note. Very shortly, potentially coming into next week, I'm going to have the YouTube chat up on my screen so I can monitor all the requests, all the comments, and kind of engage with you guys on YouTube a little bit more. We're just finalizing the tech stack, right? Trying to get Spygate where you guys can see it and utilize it while you're watching. The Delta Divergence tool, trying to get you guys, trying to get all these different tools up in a way that you guys can utilize them also. And so also that I can trade, so I can execute my own stuff. All right, guys. So in the pit, you guys know we had our timing tool. The clock was posted earlier this morning. You know that we were looking for a high, a 10 a.m. High between 10:15 and 10:45. That's posted in the pit chat every day. Look out for that. Today's a cycle day 2, so we were expecting follow through. Yep. Thanks. I hope you guys can use it. That's why I have it up on the screen. All right. Looks like this one's going to get me in here. Let me just switch this out to here. Boom. Wait. Which one is that? Okay. Nope. So the upper on this one got me long at 71.63. Let's see, looking for a first target up here at 71.68. I don't like that we're going right into the high though, so I'm going to keep this tight, right? $149.5. 149.5. That doesn't make sense. Yeah, I don't like the way our oscillators are rolling over here either. Let's see. Let's see if we can get a short leash on this. Yep. Yep. Short leash. What is going on here?
A couple nice trades there for you, Manny. Very nice that I see.
Yeah.
Okay. John B has the audio back. Okay. Audio issues. So yeah, we've just been maintaining the long side here. No reason to even be considering shorts. Early MATD two-way kind of led to the move above the 50s, which was our breakout point, clearing convert, and then to retest the overnight highs. I heard you mention the overnight highs as well.
Yep. We got that pullback that we kind of outlined in the pre-market, right? We pulled back to 45s, I think it was 7146, 45 area, and it held. Again, blew that one because I should have point and clicked that one. I didn't get to execute it. And that kind of harkens back to David, to what you and I were talking about a few nights ago. And David was telling me like, hey, you need to just focus on your trading, dude, not so much on uh the stream. But I'm trying to develop, I'm trying to grow here. Yep. You see, we got that look above and fail right there. I'm not a look above and fail, I should say, where we kind of, stabbed up, and then you can see we're kind of losing some momentum here. We're in that window right now, 10:30 time frame, right? Let's see, our high looks good. What are you guys focused on there, David? Make sure I have the right account number in here. Okay, switching that account over. I'm just trading too many accounts, to be honest with you. But whatever. Thank you. Appreciate the comment there. Golia MBB. Appreciate the comment.
Hey, man, I have a question for you.
Sure.
Are you
Shoot.
up for a question?
For sure. Always.
Okay. I'm looking at your intraday swings timing guide here.
Uh-huh.
So we're in the center time currently, right, for a high.
We
Is that
sure
correct?
are.
For
Correct.
today?
Correct.
So is there a particular way to play that, or just
So,
kind of just using it as a reference?
good question. So we're using that as a reference, right? So it's a time window between 10:15 and 10:45, right? And the center time, the reason why there's a center time on there, it's just a time that so it's a big window, right? 45 minutes. And when you're trading, if a 5-minute chart, that could be forever. The center time is the time that I've found that was closest to where the pivot was. And I'll be the first one to admit it. I did that study a few years ago. So I just needed a closer time frame because I wanted to know where in that window would be the center time. And I've contemplated not putting it on there for new folks because it can kind of invoke this idea that, hey, the pivot will come at this certain time. And we all know in trading that nothing is linear, right? Nothing works. If the market was going to make on S4 day, we knew the market was going to pivot at 10:30, I wouldn't be here talking with you guys. I've had this shit. I would have had this shit coded already, and I'd be sitting on a beach right now. But sorry, excuse my language. But that's not how it works. So what I did was a while back, I decided to kind of get an idea, and I started literally writing down what time the pivot came on said day, and I'd write that pivot down, and then I organized them. And so, like, you can see, like, on an S3 day, we have a window between 11, I think it's 11 and 12:40. That one has a pivot time of 11:40. Those are just times that when I was writing all this stuff down day in and day out, and I aggregated all the times. That was the mean time for that period on that day. Again, great question. Thanks for asking it. And like I said, I'm really close to having all the materials that I need to do a live workshop. So especially for you folks watching in on YouTube, you're going to want to check this out because the clock tool is a timing tool that we used. And there's really, if price is good, right? But if you had an idea for when when institutional program activity is going to be strongest, when moves are more have a higher probability of turning. Then, like, so if you were looking to short today and you started shorting off the open, but you had an idea that, hey, maybe I should give this an hour, that's real edge, right? So the way I use it is, like, if so guys, that I'm trading with will often hear me say, hey, I'm looking to get long, but I'm going to wait for this window to get long. And then hopefully, and then, price is everything. Price leads. We have to lead with price. But if I'm looking to get long, then I'm going to wait for that window of opportunity where I know the probability for my trade to work out is higher. And what I've noticed over the years is that having that mindset and having that tool has kind of has helped me set the cadence of my trades, but it's also, it's also prevented me from getting into moves and sitting through 2 hours of chop. Like, oh my God, where the, that dreadful trade where it's not going anywhere, but but it's testing your fortitude in that it's not stopping you out, but it's not hitting your target, right? That sucks. And nobody wants to sit through that. Well, with this tool, you get the idea like that. You can set that, you can set like what time you would want to execute that trade. Hope that makes sense.
Yeah, so the timing zone is not a mechanical in or out. It's just more of a reference that, if the structure begins to hold and you see your like a shift during that time period where it would institute a potential trade for you, then you would go with that and having the backdrop of the time zone uh, kind of be more contextual versus mechanical. Is that kind of
Right.
okay?
So look, so here, let's use today, right? So right now we broke over, we broke over the overnight high, price is trending higher, right? So, okay, so I want to get long, right? I want to be part of this. I want to take part in this. Well, I know that I don't necessarily want to initiate a long right now because my study says that we're going to have a high pivot here. So then the way I use that is twofold, right? So if I know if I'm going into a high pivot, right, I know, okay, well, I should see a pullback here, right? And then I want to try to get long that pullback, right? I'm anticipating it. And again, nothing's perfect, but if that pullback, I think entering on a pullback at the time frame of the next low pivot, which is today, is at 11, between 11 and 11:45, with a center time of, I believe, 11:20, then that's when I want to initiate a long. So I'm willing to sit this out, wait for this to develop, and say I get the pullback, or say the 11 o'clock time frame comes and we're making a higher low, then that's the pullback that I want to buy. So that's the way I set the cadence of my trades. So right now I don't want to initiate a long, at least a point and click long, right? I'll let the ATAs kind of run themselves. But for my point and click trades, I don't want to initiate that right now. I'd rather wait for another hour or so and see what I can get at during that time frame. Hope that makes sense. If not, drop a question. Let me know. I can clarify it.
Yep, it does. Thanks, Manny.
Yep. All right, for you guys watching on YouTube, here's what that looks like. I'm going to zoom it out. This is what today's day type looks like. And thanks everybody for tuning in. We got probably one of our higher viewer counts today. That's what that looks like. If you want to take a quick snapshot of it, now would be the time. I'm going to pull it down pretty soon. All right. There you go. The one thing I will say about the clock is that, so I couldn't, I wouldn't want, I don't trade without it. I just won't, I've become so reliant on it. And I've been using it for a really, really long time. And it's true edge. It really works. Um, I think I've been tracking it for, I can show you guys how I track it, right? So this is kind of like all the day types, and this is how long I've been tracking it. You can see it's a pretty frothy sheet, right? When I track it every day, I make sure I'm right in the series, right in the sequence. Been tracking that for about 10 years. To all the people watching on YouTube, let me know. We haven't had much in the way of the Institute, our Spygate app. Haven't really. Let me just test it. Okay. Well, that's why. Tab is muted. All right. That's the sound you're going to hear if there's a cell program. That's the sound you're going to hear if it's a buy program. All right. Once again, cell program, buy program, cell program, buy program. That was just a live sell. I didn't do that. So you can see here on the chart in the lower hand. Let me just blow it out so you can see it. Right? We can see here by the annotation here that we had one institutional sell program went off. We're not going to get our, we're not going to get all excited about one institutional sell program. Okay. Please don't trade off of this stuff until you've been watching for a while. Hit that subscribe button tomorrow and you'll see how this works. Right. But don't try to trade your account, or even if you're in a funded account or you're in your real money account, hit the subscribe button, come back and check us out tomorrow. And this is the kind of stuff, guys, that you guys trading prop firm, the trading evals. This is the kind of stuff that when you have institutional activity working, when we see, the PTG algorithm fire off and get us into a trade, and it's in line with what we're seeing on the institutional front, and we have a time-based pivot, that's the time when, if I'm looking to pass an evaluation, I'll throw 10 contracts on and I'll be funded in one trade. Okay. So stick around. We're going to have a lot of stuff to offer. Again, this has been part of our plan for a while, and we finally have the tech stack right. You can hear there, another program just went off, and that was a buy. So oftentimes what you hear is the algorithm, the institutional activity, they'll just be battling it out. Let's see. Also, if you're watching, please hit that like button. If you don't want to subscribe, I get it. I tend to just watch and not subscribe to a lot of people, and I totally understand that, but it would go a long way. Plus, we have tons of stuff coming down the pike, right? We have giveaways, we have fun little trading challenges that are part of our prop firm, pitbulltraders.com. Go check that out. Tons of stuff in store for you guys that you are not going to want to miss. Okay, turning that one on. Again, so we're looking for a low pivot. Let's frame out where we would. All right, so what makes sense, right? So say the sun, the moon, and the stars align, right? What makes sense for our pullback? God, look at this, guys. This is pretty choppy up here, right? I'm seeing this is pretty choppy on this 5 minute. You look at this. I mean, this is a warning sign for me, right? Equal size candle bodies, all within the same kind of range. You know, that's a warning for me to stay out of. You know, I want to stay out of that. I don't want to get. You know, I want to be a part of this move here, right? I want to be a part of like this trade. I don't want to be a part of that. And look at all these wicks, right? That's just indecision. So, so if I see that, you know, obviously there'll be a move out of here, but for the time being, I'd rather just hang tight, let this unwind a little bit. So what makes sense here? Excuse me. So what makes sense here for the next trade, right? So say we get that pullback into that 11:20 time frame. You know, obviously we have our opening print 71.50 quarter, right? So we don't, as long as we're above that, we don't want to see, we want to maintain a bullish, kind of a bullish stance. So any pullback 71.50, I think we'll have to gauge. At that point, we'll use our delta tool, right? So we'll use our delta divergence tool in the upper left hand corner to gauge any divergence there. And if we have a positive divergence, then we'll look for some longs and keep stops tight, understanding that we're trading within the range and there's higher propensity to be chopped out. If you trade within the range, you have to, you know, you definitely have to have your fortitude about you, because you can't, it's easy to get stopped out within range for 2 or 3 points and the tape doesn't go anywhere. So just be mindful of that. All right, looks like we're treading higher here, grinding higher. Yeah, so good. Thanks for pointing that out. So Tom in the pit chat pointed out, and you guys can see that on YouTube in the lower left. He astutely points out that program buys are 814 million to 6.8. Am I reading that right? 6.8 billion to sell. Frothy. Okay. Another nuance of S4 days, but it's a cycle day 2. Let me not leave that alone before let me just stick to the basics for now. But there are every day type has a nuance to it, right? Some days tend to have these common patterns, and we live the live stream tutorial for that. We're going to go over the clock and drafting out your daily game plan. That's going to be a part of it. We're going to focus on the nuances, and I believe that that's where you really can gain an advantage. All right, so
Hey, Manny, I have a question for you.
Shoot.
Tom over here just posted that the programs, right, are basically outpacing by about $2 billion, right? Eight versus 6 or so.
Yeah, you saw that?
Yeah, I saw that on Spygate. All right, I was looking at it on my other screen. The difference right now, I guess, right now is about 1.3 billion more on the buy programs. Could you? I don't know if you can display your advanced decline weighted line and see how the internals are work
Good.
are, how does that compare, the programs to what the internals are showing? I wanna see if there's any correlation, if you can post
Great.
that up.
Great point, right? Good stuff. Thanks for helping me out with that, David. That's a great point. So here, all right, guys. Typically, we go through our internals list. So internals are 1.5 to 1 positive on the NYSE, 2 to 1, 2.7 to 1 positive on the Nasdaq. Okay, here's another neat little tool that we offer, that we share. Right. So this is the advanced decline line. So we can see that from the open, there were 1,500 stocks advancing. Since then, that's paired off quite a bit to 581. Okay. That's in line with what we just read from Tom, in that there were 6.8 billion in sell programs versus the 580 million for buys, right? Also, this is the weighted AD, so the weighted advanced decline histogram. And what we want to hone in on here, right, is the divergence. There's a divergence here. So see the white line? That's actually what's measuring this, okay? But this histogram is measuring it. So the histogram is measuring how many stocks are advancing versus declining from the open. Okay, so this is so the white line and the chart is measuring from yesterday's close. So this is from yesterday's close. So is this, versus the histogram is showing us what's happening from the open. And you can see, right, this was the ramp up this morning, and now we're coming down and we're starting to put our first negative, right? And you can see how price is pulling back here, right? From our 1030 high, which we outlined earlier, price is now moving lower. It's kind of neat how that works out. And this is why we say, guys, hit that like button, because you're going to see that once you have the right tools, you really don't have to guess. You come in prepared. You outline, we outline levels that are going to make sense. Like, okay, if we stay above here and these tools that we use are pointing in this direction, then we're looking for longs, right? Or we're looking for shorts. But once you have this great mix of tools and you have the experience in the room, it kind of, you kind of gain an understanding for what's happening in the day.
Yeah, Manny, I have a follow-up.
Sure, go for it.
So on the weighted AD, my understanding is those are the ETF sector of the S&P. And John asks here, essentially, how often are you updating the weightings of each of those ETF sectors? Do you do it on a weekly basis? Because the weighting of each of those sectors, as I understand it, the S&P 500 sectors, right, XLF, right, and so forth, XLK, they change. I mean, they have their quarterly reweightings, but they do change, from time to time. So John's asking, I guess, how often are you able to, what's the kind of the time period, how often you have to update those so they're, super accurate on a weekly basis?
So,
Do you have any idea?
yeah. So the weighted AD, what this is measuring, it's going to measure the sector weighting as it's updated. So this is updated, I think, continuously. I'm pretty sure they don't wait for quarters. It's updated. I'm pretty sure. Just let me check.
So does the indicator update the weightings automatically?
Correct. So here.
Oh, okay.
So look at our sector bubbles, right? So we have infotech, healthcare, consumer discretionary. And in that, you'll see, I hope you guys can see it on your screen. Let me blow this out a little bit more so you can see, and I can show you exactly what, so that we can answer John B's question, is that you can see here the 29% for infotech, 13% for healthcare, 12% for consumer discretionary, so on and so forth. And so Yeah. So from the open, we're seeing no, I have healthcare as 13.3%. Let me check. Maybe it's wrong. Way to make me earn it, John B. Yeah, no, John B's right. So technology is 35%. We have it at 29%. Financial services, 12%. I have financial services as 10. Yeah, he's right. Communication services, 11. Consumer cyclicals, 10. So that's a great question. You know what? Hang tight. I'm gonna have to find out.
Yeah, John just posted the
Sector
screenshot of the
weighting?
weightings
Let me
that he
see.
has.
Okay. Yep, that makes sense. That's what let's see. Let me see. Yeah, I have financial services as second. That's a good question. That's a really good question. I haven't, look, that's a great part about being around a bunch of other smart traders, right? Hey, let's figure this one out. Let's make sure that what we're looking at is accurate so that what we're using kind of we're getting what we want out of these tools, right? So let me find out about that, John B. Hang tight. Really? So hang on.
I like that indicator because it actually, I mean, we can see the price action, in the, ES
Yeah.
futures, but we want to know what's driving the price action, and it's all about those weightings of the ETF, the sector ETFs. And again, if they're, technology and financials and consumer discretionary, kind of leading the pack on any one day, and you can tell from the opening within that first 15, 30-minute period, which ones out of the gate are, you know, uh, carrying the weight versus, the underweighted ones. And then that can help us, kind of give us that context that we need for, do we want to be, if do we really want to be shorting if the underlying sectors that are driving price are the more aggressive, sectors, tech, financials, discretionaries, and it reaches, and so again, I think it just helps in context to keep us focused on, what's driving price, and then that should in turn, lead us to saying, well, maybe I was thinking of shorting, but this is evidence based versus, what I think the market should be doing. And then I have to go with the evidence. The evidence is preponderance of evidence shows, bullish sectors leading the pack, then, I'm gonna think twice, maybe three times, or maybe totally disregard the idea of shorting. So I think that really helps. And the fact that these things are measured from the opening rather than the close, and that's the world we live in, right? Is from the openings, not from, the net change from the close. So I think it's a great indicator. Um,
Yeah, and
the weighting
good
of it.
point. And also what I like to focus in on this, guys, is you see how there's like there's somewhat of a divergence in the weighted line versus the histogram, where the weighted line is negative but the histogram is positive. Um,
Isn't the
look,
line the unweighted
right.
AD
So
line?
this is the unweighted, right? The unweighted, and this is weighted.
Yeah, okay.
So you can see it's
The
kind of following.
histogram is the weighted one, right?
Right. Correct. But I'm going to reach out and find out about why these, because he's right. Thanks for pointing that out. 'Cause I just never thought to think about it. I always assumed that it was updating because I've seen these sector bubbles change over time. But yeah, good observation. Good
You may want to
observation.
find out, maybe you may want to check the back settings of them,
Yep.
see if, if there's an input for the various weightings. So maybe periodically you just have to change the weightings. Even though they're live, maybe you just have
Nah,
to change the
I'm gonna
weightings
have
periodically.
John B's gonna check them for me since he started this.
John, it's on you.
Yep. Hey, launch team viewer, come on, get in here.
Wait a minute, Jim Mayo has something here. Okay, Jim has a video from Shadow Trader discussing the advanced decline weighted. So check that out.
Yep. Yeah, there you go, guys. Click on that link and you can get the excuse me. Get the technical definition there from the creator of it.
Yeah, I don't have it on my end, but I like watching. I like watching when you post yours. I use the poor man's version on Sierra Chart. I also, for those that don't have this, an alternative is FinViz, Financial Visibility, I think it's called, or
Yeah,
FinViz.
I love FinViz.
So you can check, and it's I think it's slightly delayed,
I was looking at it this
but
morning. It's just FinViz.
it still can give you. I mean, again, this stuff is not designed to be pinpoint, trade action, but what's driving the market underneath the surface. And again, um, if you're not following the internals to some degree, what are you following? I don't care about fundamental stuff, but I definitely do care about what's driving technology right now. You know, is high. It's very high on the list.
Yeah, yeah. And like I always assumed that like I just seen that healthcare was their second, but I've always assumed that healthcare was kind of what was
Typically, healthcare is a
financial.
defensive section.
Right. I kind of always assumed that financials were second, and I've gotten used to looking like is the bubble green or is the bubble red? um, yeah. So I'm gonna look into that in my downtime. Make sure I look into that for sure. For sure. Let's see. So our internals are pretty. Guys, look at the ticks though, right? Let's take a look at our tick chart, right? The ticks are just right. So here, let me just blow this out for you. The ticks could be telling, right? So our cumulative tick, yeah, it's positive, but I mean, look, straight. We open on a high tick, right? Nothing but lower highs, lower highs, lower highs. So eventually we see the spike down and maybe a spike up. But again, we're in distribution mode. It seems like, oops. It seems like we're in that sideways distribution. We talked about that wave 3 high in the pre-market prep. And hang tight right here. I'm going to leave you cozy with David while I go run to grab a drink. Crude is moving higher. Magister points out the crude is moving higher, breaching that 92.30, 92.36 right now. 92 quarter level was the last pivot. The Russell's weak here, and Nasdaq is the same. Yep. Leave you with David, guys, for a second. I just want to run and grab a drink. Okay.
Sam B, who are you directing that question to in terms of code, the formula for it? Good for Thinkorswim or Schwab, not Shadow Trader, but based exact same settings and coding. If you could specify to whom you're asking your question. I think Shadow Trader has it for Toss. Not sure about Schwab, or maybe it's Toss is Schwab, I guess. Yeah. So I think they have it for Thinkorswim. Check out the Shadow Trader site. I think it's rather inexpensive for what it offers, what it provides for you. So I'm not the authority on that one.
So Sam, you're saying that they do offer updating? Is that what it is? Am I looking at stagnant information here?
No, it's Sam's saying the Shadow Trader has it for Thinkorswim, but of course you're paying for it. Yes.
Check.
He says I guess he's saying he has code that to emulate it, but you have to update the weightings weekly. So he says he could. I guess he's offering to. Sam, are you correct? Am I saying that you're offering to post code for those that are interested in it for what you have? I don't know if I'm asking the proper question, but
You know we love free around here. Let's watch the delta divergence at this pivot. Remember, up the upper left-hand corner of my screen. So we have this lower high pivot at I think that's 71.62 quarter. All right, let's see if they breach it. But you know what we're getting here? I mean, look, let's take a look at this, right? Take a look at a profile chart. Kind of getting this balance day look, right? So we had our A period and we've traversed. We're probably going to get something like this today, come up a little bit, come back down, and maybe form like an equal distribution. Again, that goes in line with the dreaded sideways outcome that we covered this morning. So again, I don't like it. I'm just calling it. All right.
Sam's just posted some code for anybody that's interested in that. Okay, yeah, that's for Schwab Toss.
Oh, perfect, Sam. Thank you for any coders out there that can figure that out. Hit me up. Let me know how to plug that in. All right, so again, we stabbed up again. I mean, this is a mess, guys. I mean, seriously, don't click yourself to death out here in this, right? Look, there's just nothing going on right now. This is the type of morning that if I'm sitting here by myself, I'm setting some alerts and I'm gonna go do something else. I'm gonna go, move about the house, move about the cabin and stuff. Because this will drive you mad. There's just nothing happening. This is a 5-minute chart from the open, and all these candle bodies are all the same equal size candle bodies, equal size wicks, no type of directional move. Internals are flat, ticks are flat. I mean, if you're scalping for like ticks or something, and eventually I think that this range does break out. Let's take a look at, hang on, you know what? I haven't looked at Vega today. And Vega always gives me some insight into whether, whether we have a volatility expansion day, or whether they're just going to keep, where. So when we have positive gamma, which is what we're in right now, and we get a Vega condition that signals volatility suppression, dealers are buying lows and selling highs, keeping price in check. When we have a positive gamma situation, but Vega is pricing in volatility, they're more apt to go with moves, and you get an expansion of range. The best conditions for us day traders are when we have negative gamma and volatility is not being suppressed. Those are the days where we're going to get, 75, 80, 100 point ranges. And just to add to that, guys, I'm going to be including a segment or more information into how futures traders can use flows day in and day out to kind of frame your trades. So if you have that, you have the institutional activity, we have a timing tool, and it kind of gives you a great arsenal from which to trade with. At least, at least you're not guessing like, hey, should I buy this level or not, right? So we all have our levels, right? And levels are great, but we all know that if it was that easy to trade a level, just put a buy order there and put a sell order there, right? And then we'd all be rich. But it doesn't work that way. So levels can have maybe a greater than 50% probability of working out. But it's when we layer in these other tools, like our timing tool, like the institutional activity, like we just heard the croaks going off, and now we see the delta divergence, or what was there a moment ago. Then we can start making better decisions, and we can start seeing, hey, this level has a higher probability based upon, what we're seeing in real time. So one thing about this delta divergence tool, you can see we're getting more reds right now, is that we want to, so I try not to, I don't look at it all day long. You can't, because the signals will get drowned out and you'll read too much into it. What I do is I look at it when I'm at the level, or I just track it kind of tertiarily, like I follow it. Like I'm seeing more reds today than blues, or I'm seeing, on trend days, you're going to just see more blue, but of course you're going to see reds also, right? Because people are trying to sell it. So I'm going to continue to point out the nuances on that again, so we're all making better decisions and framing our trades from a perspective, from a knowledgeable standpoint. Don't forget, you guys watching on YouTube, please do me a favor. I think you guys are tailing off a little bit, but do me a favor, hit that like button, hit the subscribe button. Don't forget to check out pitbulltraders.com. It's our funding arm if you want to try to learn how to trade futures. If you're new around this, you don't have to open an account with a broker in the traditional way. You can use our funding arm, and you can learn how to trade futures at a fraction of the cost. And once you develop your strategy and develop your approach to trading, then you pass a simple test, and at that point, we'll offer you capital for you to trade with. And if you're a seasoned futures trader, we offer funding in as little as 3 days. So don't forget to check out the website. And if you're looking for education, MrTopStep.com is really good for that. So check that out. All right. In terms of our time pivots, guys, we're coming into that. That's 4H cycle day 2. Looking for a low with a center time right about now, 11:20, so a low between 11 and 11:45. We already got the high, right? So we can see that. What would you do if you knew when, at what time to place your trades, right? That's a general question. Well, I'd probably, common thinking is at least you'd get a lot more done in your day. I hate being chained to my desk. I just, I started trading, obviously, like for the same reasons that most of us do. Love of markets, low barrier of entry, the ability to make above average money in below average time. However, the learning curve can be steep, and you might find yourself spending more time at your desk than what you had hoped. Well, the ultimate goal is to, have that time, have that freedom. And for that to take place, you have to be able to, know your strategy, trade well, and then you can step away. Our timing tool helps out greatly with that. All right, let's look back at the tape. Let me see what would change things for me here. If we break below that 71.45 to 71.50 area with strength and momentum, and then we'd be looking at a test of the initial balance low or the early low 71.40, but I'd be more inclined to see that happening from the 12.30 high than from here. Again, so we're looking for a low pivot right about now. Oh God, I hate saying that because it might be a trigger for someone to get long. But so we're looking for a low pivot between 11:45 and then a high between 12 and 1 o'clock. So one of the nuances that I know that I use is, frequently on the next 4 day, the 12:30 high could be the high of the day. And if that is the case, you probably get a big sell, a good sell. But if not, then not.
Manny, is there a particular time chart that you're referencing for the time cycles? Obviously, we look at tick charts quite often, but is there a larger time period, 5 minute, 15, or 60 minute, or something that you kind
Do you
of?
mean for the time-based study?
Yeah, the time-based study.
Yeah, no, yeah. I'm using a standard, 5 or 15 minute chart to kind of frame those out. Look at the structure
Okay.
of it. So we could see here that we're kind of in that window now. But today's not a good clock day, and I'll tell you, like, look at it's really not a good day for much, right? Like, look at this. Look at what we're looking at here, right? I haven't executed much because we're just stuck in this range right here. We have what? We're still in a 25-point range, 25.5-point range. And, all these candle bodies, no extension, we're still within the initial balance. So it's you can have a time-based pivot in here, but it's not going to be really discernible from a visual perspective on even a time chart. Magister says you can have exposure to multiple industries and businesses with minimal initial investment. Correct. I think he's talking about the prop business, but yeah, I would agree with him. Again, for everybody watching, we're on every day from 9 to 11:30. We have guest speakers coming in and out pretty much daily. We're with David Dubay joining us. David is a trader and a trading educator. You should check out his website, PolarisTradingGroup.com. He offers a ton of information, great software package, along with the PTG, Polaris Trading Group methodology. If you're still looking for a system to trade with, I highly recommend you check that out.
Yeah, thanks, Manny, for the plug. Always good to have the plug.
Yep. Yep.
Uh,
And yeah, for anybody interested, the algorithms that I use, they were designed by David. So if you're interested in that, hit up that website, post in the chat. Be sure to check them out. And for you guys watching, if you're watching on your phone, if you're watching on YouTube, it's PolarisTradingGroup.com.
yeah, I just posted a link up there in case anybody wants to
Yep.
check that
Good
out.
stuff. Good stuff there.
What's upcoming here at noon? So after we take our break, we have uh, Danny and Lauren coming on at noontime till about 1:30 Eastern. And again, they're going to be talking uh, markets in mind, right? Mind on markets, ags. If you're interested in the ags sector there, industry, I think she may talk a little bit about uh, cattle futures as well, which she's involved in. That is Lauren. So be sure to check that out. That starts at noon. So you can grab a sandwich or something, refreshments, and tune in at noontime for Lauren and Danny.
Yep, good stuff there. The ladies bring a really good perspective to all of this. So I believe that Danny trades NQ, and Lauren, she trades equities, but she also adds, if any of you guys are looking for different kind of markets, Lauren also trades the ags. And so she can explain to you more about that. But you'd find sometimes, I've always been curious, and this is why I tune in and listen to them, is because I've always been curious, can I find a market that moves, that's just less prone to like the stop runs that we see on ES and NQ, where my approach works and would yield better results. We all get caught up in those stop hunts, right? And I've always been curious. So about a couple of years ago, I started trading soybeans because I just looked at a chart and I was like, oh, this is kind of trending well. And I found relative success there, but I kind of just went back to what I was good at. But if any of you guys are looking for any other markets, I highly suggest you tune in at 12 noon and listen into what they have to say. They don't not only covering trading, but they're covering mindset and approaches. And even last time, Danny shared this great AI script that you can use to help you out with your trading, hit your goals. Yep, right back down to the lows again. So, this is chop shop. This is horrible. This is not a day to attack the markets. Typically, that's 4 days when we have a compression of range. This is not going to help us out much, but typically if this stays like this for the rest of the day, and mind you that there are still quite a few hours left to this day, usually like I'll be ready tomorrow to attack, because usually when we have like 2 days of sideways price action digestion, typically you're going to see a volatility expansion on the following day. So if you want to be a part of that and you want to use our tools, don't forget to tune in tomorrow. And tomorrow we have our guest speakers. We're gonna have. I'm pretty sure that I'm going to have our resident oil trader join us tomorrow. And we might have one other surprise for you, but I don't want to announce it until we know for sure. Hang tight. Give you a programming note in a second.
All right, guys. I am out of here, Manny. I got a meeting here at 11:30,
Yep.
and great conversation today. So thanks to everybody as well for participating. The greater engagement, again, the more you'll actually learn from us. We have a wealth of experience, and we really kind of are eager to pass that along, and not just so much, putting trades up on the screen, which we certainly do, but we also want to help you, gain a greater knowledge edge and how we approach the markets here as well. So again, and the only way to be able to extract that information from us is to engage, ask questions, and pull what you can from us. So we'll be here to do that on a daily basis for everybody. So be sure to continue to tune in, and I will leave the rest of the morning here to Manny. I'm going to head off to a meeting in about 30 seconds. So have yourself a great rest of your day.
Great, David. Thanks for
Manny.
stopping in, David. Appreciate it. Yeah, guys. So just a quick backdrop. Like, as you know, just to David's point, right? So we started Pitbull Trade. Danny Riley, who some of you may know, longtime futures floor trader, well known in our space and in our industry, proposed something about a year ago. How do we bring to other traders who are looking for deeper knowledge, more ways of trading well? How, because we had a small group and we were trading each and every day, right, as professionals, and we were kind of wondering, hey, should we expand this and share this with other people? We see there were a bunch of people out there that were doing it that we didn't think had as much to offer as we did, and we decided to start building this out about a year ago. So what you're seeing now is a culmination of that, of the deployment of that plan. And so Danny is, principal in Pitbull Traders, Mr. Top Step, well-known futures trader, author of the opening print. He joined me yesterday, and we're going to continue to build this out and add value to you guys. Tune on in tomorrow. Our show is every day, Monday through Friday, 9 to 11:30. Before we go, remember, if you're trading for the rest of the day, react, don't predict, right? Let the tape come to you. Mind your risk and trade safe. All right, guys. Oh, wait, one quick note. Yeah, so I'm being joined tomorrow by Rev, who is our resident crude oil expert. Rev's been trading crude for a very long time, and he's kind of the guy who we go to when we want to know more about crude, and that's very important right now, especially how volatile crude has been. And again, you can see we have Danny and Lauren coming on today at 12 noon. Lauren trades the ags and also indexes, and we have a ton of other contributors. We have Rich Handelstats, who has a quantitative approach, right? Everything he does statistically based, and he gives out those statistics in real time, especially on gap fill days and so on and so forth. That can really fine tune your edge and your approach for that morning. So don't forget to check that out. Check us out on Rich's day, which is, I believe it should be tomorrow or Friday. Just check back for that. We're going to have the schedule posted up on pitbulltraders.com. Don't forget to check that out. Once again, guys, thanks for tuning in. Appreciate the support. Don't forget to hit that like button and hit the subscribe button before you go. Thanks.